All right, guys, welcome to the first exciting episode of Pete versus Anxiety here on the Oracle Talk Radio Network. My guest today is a 22-year veteran of the Marines, Mr. Teddy Colgate. Teddy, how's say hello to everybody?
Hello, everyone. It's good to be here. Thanks, Pete, for having me.
Not a problem, man. Teddy, why don't you tell everybody why you're here today?
Well, after a 22-year career in the Marine Corps, I realized that I was suffering, living day to day with a lot of issues that I had no idea what they were. And the big umbrella, of course, is post-traumatic stress. But as you peel those layers back, that there's so much more in the dynamics associated with that stuff. So um, you don't know what you don't know, and that's part of the problem I think in society today is that we just we see something or we read something and we just say, okay, well, that applies to us. But individuals are so unique and they're very different that their experiences uh, impact them, whether it's the physiological side or the mental side, way different than anybody else. So when I was 18, I joined the Marine Corps. Less than a year in the Marine Corps, I was in Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and that was the first big war that the U.S. had been in a very long time. So no idea what was going on, and I just jumped in with both feet and had no idea what was actually happening. And then came out. You know, Desert Storm was 100-hour ground war. I was with Second Anglico at the time, attached to the Tiger Brigade, which was Army tanks, and didn't really see a whole lot of anything. Just kind of the aftermath type stuff because the way the war was fought there, and come back, but you don't think about as an 18 or 19-year-old kid at the time all those things that kind of sit in. And looking back, you probably should have talked to somebody back then, and you don't think about those things. You know, if you're not say covered in blood, or you're not unfortunately missing a limb of some sort, it's hard to see. And I think the psychological aspect of war in general is pretty harsh. And even the ones that go into these combat areas and things, they don't understand the challenges that face them because it's just what we do, or it's just, unfortunately, the phrase I believe is it is what it is. And so many times you don't realize these things that and the damage it's causing until way after the fact. So that's where it started. And I continued on uh, my career. I got back to Camp Lejeune, and then I went up to Quantico and HMX-1, flew the president for 4.5 years or so. Worked in a White House liaison office. Great experience. Totally different than anything I had experienced. It was rewarding, eye-opening. I was exposed to a lot of higher level individuals that matured me as a young man very quickly. And I was about to get out of the Marine Corps at that point, and I just knew that I needed more. So re-enlisted and went to Okinawa, Japan to get my 4-year degree. That was my commitment, that I wanted to get my degree before I exited the Marine Corps. And went to Okinawa for 3 years, finished my 4-year degree in 2.5 years, and left Okinawa, Japan, went straight to officer candidate school in Quantico, and was commissioned as second lieutenant, and started my next journey in the Marine Corps. And got down to, this was, I guess, early 2000, and got down to back to Camp Lejeune, and was really doing a lot of training and things of that nature. I was a communications officer at the point. And then fast forward to September 11th, and that's what changed everything for me.
I think it
And
changed for a lot of people, honestly, man. That was just, it's crazy.
and I remember 3 years ago, I gave a speech on September 10th, and I was in Jacksonville, Florida. There was an event for Concerned Veterans of America, and they asked me to speak and do an opening little speak. And I remember saying something along the lines that 20 years ago, this was 21. So 20 years ago, moms and dads and husbands and wives, sons and daughters went to bed that night not understanding the dynamics that were going to change their life forever. And that, for our generation, for my generation, I feel like September 11th was our Pearl Harbor. So everything that happened post September 11th, changed the way you look at people, changed the way you view society, changed the way you go to stores, changed the way you travel. And that was always difficult for me. Partly because from that point until I retired in 2012, I was deployed 8 times. And, that was hard because it took so much away from your life and your family's life, and the ripple effect that it caused was so negative. So now your mindset changes and your mindset becomes super guarded. So, so it's if I had one goal for our country, it's to find those people and that feeling that you have in your heart of patriotism on September 12th, 2001.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. The day after everything had gone down. Because I remember when 9/11 happened, I can remember the exact thing. I was sitting in a class in high school, and they pulled the monitors up, and they were like, "Yeah, you have to see this. Something happened." And that's when initially the first plane hit, and then the second plane hit, and we were watching it live as it was going on. And like, as a kid, you're not really thinking anything of it, honestly, because you're just like, oh, all right, well, we don't realize at my age, I wouldn't even realize, the effects it was going to have. But after everything, the aftermath of that was just insane. The things of like the building collapsing, and then you see all the pictures of the first responders and people, the people stuck in there and things like that. It's just insane. It really is. It's crazy. And like you were saying, as we were talking before we went live, guys, me and Teddy were talking. He was telling me all the times he went over. I was like counting them in my head. I'm like, whoa. He's like, and he started listing the years of times he'd been deployed, and I was like, whoa, that's crazy because you think about it, because that's a lot of on you. And were you married at that time too?
I was.
And it had to be hard on her too, because she was like worrying about you, and if she was going to hear from you, and are you going to get that phone call that everybody fears of? Because like my brother, he's military, and he was a med tech technician. They were talking about sending him into Baghdad when the whole Iraq thing went down. And he was like, I think the third layer out from the actual city of Baghdad. And my dad was like, all right, be prepared, because we're going to go in there and go get him if we have to. I'm like, okay, all right. Like, it sounds like a great idea. But when you like you were saying it, once you're over there, it's a whole other ball game, And the thing I want to touch on those where you said that, you should have gotten help sooner. Like my own self, I should have got help sooner too. And that's the whole reason until now, I hadn't done anything about it, because I didn't see it being a problem, but everyone else did. And that's the problem, guys, is sometimes it's okay to get help. Like Teddy was saying, like he didn't get help and he probably should got it sooner. I should have gotten it sooner. I can't change the past, but I can only change the future. So, I decided to get some help, and that's when I started learning things about myself. And I found recently that I have ADHD and things like that. And I would never known any of these things had I not gotten any help of any sort or went and talked to anybody. Nowhere near what you've experienced. Trust me. Whoa. Seeing the bodies and everything. I'm like, you see this stuff on TV, but when you're actually seeing this stuff, it's not a video game anymore, guys. This is real life happening. Teddy was there when this stuff was going on. Like, he's seeing the aftermath and the effects of war have. It's great that you see all the destruction and everything, but what's the aftermath going to be like? What about those people that have to rebuild their lives afterwards and things like that? Is what a lot of people don't think of. They're all just thinking of, oh, well, and after 9/11, it was then everybody started looking at different people of the Arab nation as, oh, well, they're all the enemy. I'm like, no, they're not. They didn't make that choice. Just because one group made that choice doesn't mean everybody made that choice, and it's kind of sad that we just started attacking our own people, attacking different groups of people because we didn't like them, and it's it's happened time and time again. I mean, like, back when Martin Luther King was standing for what he wanted to, then it was us versus them. And then we're back to the same scenario, things that we already should have learned from history that should have happened before. We should have done our research and, known that it wasn't everybody. It was one group's choice that wanted to do this, not versus, you want to blame a whole race of people for them, which they didn't have any part of this whole thing. Half of them were born here. They don't know anything about any of that stuff. They want nothing to do with that stuff, and things like that.
No, that's exactly right. And I will say this till I have no air in my lungs, that asking for help is a strength, not a weakness.
It
And,
exactly is.
it's, you can't lie to that person you see in the mirror every day when you're brushing your teeth, washing your face, what have you. You can't lie to that person, because when you lie to that person, nothing else matters. Nothing else is regulated. And, it took me a long time to figure that out. So, when I got back, so we're in, say, call it 2001. I leave a few months after that, and I go to the European Command in Stuttgart, Germany, and I become an action officer for the Pankisi Gorge, which is in the Republic of Georgia. That's where the Soviets invaded Afghanistan the first time. So give you a kind of a geographical reference. And part of the Georgia Train and Equip program there to make sure that they could hold that spot. And so that was kind of my first grown up, I'll call it, deployment to a not so nice area. And was in and out of there from 2001 to 2002, and then come back. And in January of 2003, deployed into Kuwait to set up for the invasion into Iraq later, in that year. So that was my first couple of grown up deployments, I'll call them, as a commissioned officer. And I was by myself, kind of leading just a hodgepodge group there in 2001 and 2002, and then in 2003, that was the first time I took command and took a company over to do our job, and we did so. And it was kind of short lived, because the mass buildup of forces there in 2003 was kind of overwhelming and dynamic, and we thought we were going to be there for the long haul. And I ended up getting orders. I had orders before I deployed, but I ended up getting having to execute those orders. And I left the desert and went straight to Parris Island, South Carolina, and I trained recruits at Parris Island for 3 years. So that was 2003, the summer of 2003 to summer of 2006. I was at Parris Island, which, great area, Beaufort, South Carolina. The great thing about being there at that time for me was every kid or person that came down to Parris Island raised their hand, support, defend. I swear to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. When they raise their right hand to say that, they know they are going into harm's way. So it is a totally different caliber of individual that you're training to become United States Marines at that point. And it was a huge honor to be able to do that, because they knew what they were doing. And we incorporated that into our talks and our training for them, because we knew what was ahead of them as well. And I was fortunate where I deployed, came in and started training. And the drill instructors that I had when I first got there hadn't really deployed yet. So about a year later, 6 months later, now we're getting combat seasoned Marines coming down to Parris Island to become drill instructors. And that mindset changed also, because they had seen not so good things, and they wanted to make a difference, to make sure those young kids were mentally prepared to go in to do what they had to do. So there was a unique mind shift in the training environment as well, which I was fortunate to be able to observe.
Oh, that's great to hear, though. I mean, especially if they're combat experienced, they can tell these guys exactly what they're going to experience. Like, hey, listen, heads up. And I think that's great that they could take those experiences and teach these younger guys, like, hey, listen, you're going to be in for something here. I want you to understand. You may say yes now, but I want you to really look at me and understand that this is a real deal situation. This is not fiction. This is what's going to happen. Now you may feel these thoughts, but I want you to understand that I've been there and I can tell you. And I think that's the way a lot of people learn is from experience too. And I don't think enough of the younger generation listen to some of us more experienced people when we try to tell them things. They're like, okay, whatever. No, listen, they've been there. They know what it's like. They've seen the things. They're telling you, like, heads up, this is what you need to understand right now is that you need to understand that this is a real situation you're signing up for. This is no joke. The game's over. This is, hey, okay, it may be fun and games to you now, but once you're there, it's a life or death situation. You have to make a decision right there and then. And are you prepared? And a lot of people say they are, but it's just crazy. Like, do you have what it takes to end someone's life? I mean, and like I was telling Teddy in our post talk, the before we even started this thing, is that I read a book in high school called Voices of Vietnam, guys. And let me tell you, there's some of that stuff you're reading. Oh, it's a crazy. Like I read a guy who had to execute somebody, and he had to do it in a life or death situation, and he was probably about 18 or 19 from what his description was of his age. And he said the kid he had to execute was about his age. And it's like, think about it. If you're in that situation, can you do that? I mean, a lot of us will sit there and say, yeah, but when your fight or flight instincts kick in, are you going to really be ready for that kind of thing? Because you're being tested to whether or not you're going to take somebody's life. It's yours or theirs. And you have to understand in time of war, from what these letters of what I was reading from these people, it was hard. This poor guy has to live with this now. Like, this poor kid was trying to do what he thinks is right, and so was he. And it's just insane. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah. It is definitely different. And, you mentioned fight or flight. And I would also say there's two other F's that a lot of people don't talk about. And that's the fight, flight, freeze, and fog. Because in a harsh environment, if you freeze for too long, that's a bad thing. And the fog of not, especially when you're in command, if you get overwhelmed and you have that fog, you can't make that decision in a timely, decisive manner. And a lot of times that's costly also. So it's real. And I had a reservist from New York. He was a very well-known, successful stockbroker on Wall Street as one of my recruits down there. And I asked him point blank. He was 28 years old at the time, and I said, "You're successful. You have all these things going on." I said, "Why would you do this?" He says, "Because they attacked my fucking city." Right. And you can't argue with that.
No, you can't.
You want those guys to stand shoulder to shoulder in times of need and be ready to and willing. There's a lot of people that are ready, but you have to be willing to do that for those around you and your family and your friends and your city, your country, what have you. So super blessed to be able to do that at the time in my career that I felt was so important, because those are the ones that legitimately made the difference, I believe, moving forward, because it was the long war. And when I left Paris Island in 2006, I immediately went into the pre-deployment pipeline. I deployed in 2007. I was with the 1st Iraqi Army Division MIT. So I was one of 33 Marines that were embedded with Iraqis. In that group, there's a bunch of Marines embedded with Iraqis. We were just with that Iraqi unit. 2008, I was in Iraq, come back, immediately go into a workup for Afghanistan, and go to Afghanistan in 2009 and 2010. And then in October of 2009, I was catching a ride out of Canesian Castle from in an LAV, and we were in a static position It's kind of a security spot. And it was a brownout, which is, sandstorm, can't see a whole lot. And I had a LVS, a logistical truck, slam into the ramp of the seat that I was sitting at. And it's basically an automobile accident, if you will, of combat vehicles, but they're 22-ton.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different because I was knocked out. Couldn't. My first sergeant was with me. He's like, sir, you okay? You okay? I said yes. And I guess he had asked me, 6 or 7 times, and I finally said yes. And he said, "Can you move?" I said yes. And of course, he had asked me 5 or 6 times if I could move, and I hadn't moved. And then finally, kind of shook the cobwebs out and couldn't get out the ramp door. We had to crawl out of the hatch, and just kind of discombobulated, concussed. But I was a major at the time, and I'm not getting sat on the bench, which is probably, I think, a lot of times the worst thing that people do when you get, if the mental health aspect, when you say, I need to talk to someone, leadership will say, well, sit there and we'll get to you. And that's the worst thing that you can do. I want to continue to serve my choice of service, and you telling me just to sit until I get help. Well, this is help. Being with my guys is help. I just need to offload whatever's on my mind at that point, so that was tough. And that was October of 2009. And we get back, we actually got to the nearest base after that accident. And then I cross-decked and jumped on a helicopter and flew back. And then didn't go to the medical battalion aid station, nothing like that. I just kind of hunkered down and slept for a couple of days, which is not the right thing to do.
Yeah, especially with a concussion.
Well, exactly. But I knew kind of the parameters of concussion protocol.
Yeah.
And, that's the big one, especially back then and still now. But I was not going to do it. I was not going to take myself out of the fight. And so I slept a little bit for probably 2 or 3 days. And then I reported to medical, and, I was technically okay at that point, but I knew that I was not. Something was definitely changed in my mindset, and folks could see it. So I finished that deployment, came home in 2010, and yeah, family could notice things.
Yeah, listen, okay, so I was gonna ask you, now you say 2010 you came with family can notice things. So what kind of things did they notice?
Just I was edgy, irritability. I was just not. I was not the jovial person that I was. I could make light of a lot of things, and at that point, everything was like kind of just even keel. The emotional roller coaster that I would have, or that would be normal, is kind of like a little legitimate, rolling wave.
Yeah.
And for me at that point, I was spiking either really good or really bad. And sometimes it would go from, the both spectrum extremes within seconds.
Yeah.
And, I could sit on the couch and watch TV and just kind of emotionally drain everything, because whatever happened on TV triggered something in my mind. And I was,
Yeah.
they would ask me, what's wrong, and then you get the ones that don't understand, and they're just like, what's wrong with you?
Or
Calm
just
down.
shake it off, or what
Yeah.
does they say? Oh, you'll get over it. No,
Yeah.
no, I won't.
Yeah. So, yeah. So when I came back, well, let me back up. before that deployment, it was voluntary for units to go into a pre-TBI protocol. So you would go into have a series of tests before you deploy to establish a benchmark for TBI, traumatic brain injury. So I was adamant that my entire company did this. So then on the backside of that deployment, you go into a post deployment screening, and you do the same kind of test for the TBI protocol. Well, the last question on that sheet is, do you want to see a provider? So all my guys went in and they did it. I did it. And on the bottom question, I scribbled in, yes, I want to see a provider. So I go in and I see this provider, and she's a Navy doctor. And she's like, sir, why are you here? And I said, obviously something's not right. And she's like, well, what do you mean? And she has my post deployment screening. And she's like, everything looks good. You're average, above average, across the board. I said, okay. I said, ma'am, did you look at my pre-screening? And she says, well, no, I didn't have to, because all of your scores are elevated. I said, so what is the difference? And what are you benchmarking that against? And she's like, well, we don't need to. And I said, yes, you do. That's the whole point. I'm telling you something is not okay. So she gets up and she leaves her office. And I was in there, and the whole time I think I'm crazy. Like my brain and my mouth, they don't sync up a lot of times.
Yeah.
Whether my brain is thinking too fast, my words are coming, too slow, or vice versa. So 15 minutes, I'm sitting here in this office, and I'm like emotionally drained. I'm sweating. The physiological effects of the stress and everything else are just like apparent. She comes back in and she brings 5 doctors with her. And she sits down and she has both sheets. And she says, sir, I am so sorry. All my pre-scores were off the charts.
Yeah.
So coming back, I knew something was wrong. My family and people that are close to me knew something was wrong. But I present so well now still, but my processing is slower and all these things. And all you had to do was look at the baseline. We did this for a reason. And that was the first time where I was able to process it. You know what? I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
And that was, I would say, ultimately that point right there in my life was the beginning of my journey for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And it was tough. It was even tough to accept. But knowing was a huge relief, but it was tough to accept, because I do present very well. I function. I don't function as smoothly as I would like to, obviously, or that I have in the past. One of the issues that I deal with every single day is when I leave my house, because I refuse to be a captive in my own life. So I struggle with all these things, but I'm not going to not live, because that's not fair to me. It's not fair to my family, who I hold near and dear. So I'm going to continue, even at my own detriment. I'm going to walk out of these doors and go and live to some degree. Now, the problem is when I come home, I am spent, no energy left, cognitive, emotional, no reserve. Everything is just done, So what I've done over the last couple of years is really try to operate more efficiently with my brain, with my body, and things like that. So it's not as taxing when I go somewhere. So
Yeah, no, I get that.
that's the big thing. And but so that was 2010, and then it just started. So the problem with the VA, because I retired in 2012, so I was kind of just getting, cookie cutter active duty treatment type things, like they don't want to do too much because then, they got to identify you and label you as something. So they're not going to do too much just in case they need you, you know. So when I submitted for
That's sad.
retirement, well, and it is sad, and it's the unfortunately the reality, where we want to help you, or we want to say we're going to help you, but we're going to help you enough to benefit us.
Yeah.
And that is the saddest part, because the 22 a day number, 22 veterans commit suicide a day. That's a real number, and it's one of those numbers. It fluctuates obviously, but at the end of it, it's these guys fighting the same thing just like I did. Like, I can't be crazy.
Nope.
I know something's going on. I'm at a point now where I continue to ask for help. And, you throw medicine at me. Or I remember when I retired, and I retired in 2012, getting in the VA pipeline. It was, here's your meds for your mood disorder, your depression, anxiety. Okay, well, it makes me feel just ho hum, not motivated for anything. I'm not taking it. Well, just lower the dose. Okay. Nope. Okay. Try this med. Increase the dose. Lower the dose. Right. So you go through this guinea pig thing to the point where, okay, I'm not doing any of it.
Yeah.
And, there's no rhyme or reason. And it's just all you want to do is be as functional as possible in society. As a military person, you want to have a purpose, you want to be driven, you want to be motivated. And when you're struggling with these other things, it's a challenge to have any of that. So the problem that I had at that point, and I did not know this, and this is where the last 2 years have really changed the outlook of my life and improved the quality of my life, because I've learned a great deal about things. So the VA historically has treated PTS like with one umbrella. It doesn't matter your era, doesn't matter the situation. PTS is PTS, right? And I say PTS, PTSD, whatever.
Yeah.
So
It's all the same thing. I got you.
yeah. So and I leave off the D on purpose, because it is an issue. It's not a disorder. It is a situation that has been thrust on you. You didn't just like develop some, eating disorder, or,
Yeah.
so anyway, but the VA looks at it like all the same. And that is just not the case. You know, um, there are some overlapping things, but for me, what I've learned over the last 5 months is um, it's the, let me see, I think they call it the fatal five.
Yeah.
So the fatal five, and this is where the 22 a day come in. So the fatal five are PTSD, TBI, insomnia, chronic pain, and uh, mood, whether it's depression, anxiety, one of those things. So, you throw irritability in there, but it's basically the mood, right? So
Yeah.
the fatal five, that's what happens when so many guys have those fatal five. That's where that number 22 comes to play, because if you have, if you have trouble sleeping, right, you're still going to be able to function, and you're gonna, you know, be able to handle some of the regular day to day stuff. But when you put it on top of, I'm in chronic pain nonstop. I don't sleep. My body has no chance to rest and recover, because sleep is the number one rejuvenating aspect in our bodies and our minds. Um, and when you don't have that, it exacerbates the other. And then you put on the PTS, the TBI, where you don't think and you don't function as well as, or as efficient as you need to. That exacerbates the chronic pain, which exacerbates the mood, because now you're pissed off that,
Yeah.
all I want to do is walk into the room and remember why I walked in there. So that is the terrible dynamic of these things that don't get addressed individually. It's just, hey, here's the umbrella. Oh, yep. Don't tell me you're irritable all the time. You don't sleep well. Oh yeah, here's a pill. That's not the way that we're going to change lives. That's not the way that our it's going to fix even one portion of that person's life. So understanding that now, I I personally have tried to focus on just pieces that, elevate, chip away, if you will, at those fatal five. Because if I can personally attack one at a time, and what they all start to come down. So it's really odd that it's taken me over a decade to try and figure out some of this stuff. And I had been retired, almost 4 years, well, just over 4 years actually, in April of 2016. So I'd had 4 years of just struggling. My wife at the time was active duty, in the Marine Corps. We had three boys. Our youngest, was 3. And on April 16th, 2016, I put a 45 in my mouth. I just I couldn't continue to process and not make sense of anything. And, but looking back, that was probably the best day, of my life, because my 3-year-old Josh, came around the corner and he asked me for juice. And, so, I look back now and I'm like, okay, well, my journey is not done. My purpose is not done. And I need to figure out a way to be a conduit to get the right information to the right people, because it's not okay. It is 100% not okay to not be treated, to not be cared for, to not be looked at as an individual for the issues that you struggle with as an individual. Right. So my message from all of that is be the juice. Right.
Definitely. That's the great
So
thing, Teddy, just to touch on real quick. That's the point of this podcast, guys. It's just like Teddy's story right there. Like he just told you, he's trying to be the conduit. I'm too. I'm just trying to get the message out there that we all deal with these kinds of things. Like what Teddy's dealing with may not be your same story, but you may resonate with him. I've been in where he's been. Now, I was close to the edge too. And it had not been for that one person, just like Josh and his story and my story was a friend of mine, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to any of you today. And and you can see the emotion on the man's face. He's serious. This is rough stuff. Like this whole cookie cutter, let's treat everything the same way. My wife deals with the same thing. She had the same problems. She deals with CPTSD, which is a little different, but she doesn't like medication either because of that reason. Because it's like it doesn't work for her. It just makes her seem like a zombie. And it's like medication's great, but there's other things out there, guys, that can help, like, different things you can do and stuff like that. And it's crazy. It really is, but it's hard to listen to. Like, listen to his story. I'm getting choked up over here too, because I'm like, damn, I felt it. I could feel the emotion as he's telling this story. Like, and I want y'all to understand this is real. This whole point of this podcast is to make sure the message gets out there that it's okay to get help. You can talk to other people. You can contact me or Teddy, and we'll talk to you. I'm sure Teddy will gladly talk to you. I'll talk to you. I don't care. I'll listen. Like, if you want to tell me something, I'll listen to you. I've been there. I know what it is. I had to deal with my own problems like that. And just like Teddy, recently I just finally decided to do something. I stopped wanting to be a part of the problem and start making the solution, which was, get myself some help to fix myself. And it was my wife that's the one that inspired me to do it, because, she would get on my case and say things to me about certain things. And then I'd start noticing things. And like, you all don't realize the effects these have, man. Like, she's had an issue before where she's had an episode. Like, let me tell you what it's like. That's not your loved one anymore. They're in a whole nother state of mind and things like that. And like, I had to fight her off at one point because, she went into this state. She had an episode where she just went completely off and everything like that. And I've had to fight her off before. And that's not your loved one at that point. So you got to be remembering that, like, a lot of times these guys, they may be there, but they're not there totally. And when those episodes happen, it's like, you just got to understand that it's what you deal with on a daily basis with PTSD, And I don't think in the 2 years that we've been married that I've never seen her ever have that problem before, but it came up as an issue. And it's just things you deal with on a daily basis that a lot of people don't see. It's great to see these movies where they portray all these great things. Oh, it's a happy ending. It's not a happy ending for some of us. Like Teddy said, there's 22 a day that aren't making it, or they're not being heard, or they're not being taken care of, or nobody's helping them, and they're asking for help. They want the help. So, the great thing about this podcast is that I'm trying to get the message out that there's help out there, guys. These are the people out there helping things. Teddy, like, I'll listen, and then some of my other guests that come on are professionals and different things. So maybe something they do that you like will work with you, but talk to somebody, guys. It's okay. And like, we need to make mental health a subject that needs to be discussed, not a catchword or, little hot phase of the month. Oh, it's mental health month, so let's go ahead and make a quick video about it and then end it. Don't talk about it afterwards. It's like the issue doesn't go away just because you're done talking about it, and everything else like that. And Teddy's pain is real, man. He was over there seeing some shit that some of y'all will never even have been able to handle. Like think about this. He's seen combat situations. Just like he said, he got in that truck. He had to crawl out of that truck. A lot of you guys are like, oh yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, it's awesome when until you're in the moment, And I've got robbed at gunpoint before. And let me tell you, when someone's got a gun against your head, it's a whole nother ball game versus, oh well, if I was there, I would have went, macho man on him. This and that's great. When you're there, you go ahead and do that. But when that gun is pointing at your head and you have another one at your chest, and you tell me what you're thinking at that moment, I'm thinking my wife's at home. I got a kid at home. I got things I got to worry about at this point. I'm worried about whether I'm going to make it home after this, just for this little bit of money per hour to come here and work. And it's like, everybody wants to give you all this advice. Oh, well, this is what I would have done. Or you need to toughen up and do that. It's no. I'm trying to break the mold of this macho man persona thing. I know that's what a lot of people have been told before. And, Teddy's generation is probably the one that probably did the whole thing originally with you have to be strong. You can't have emotions. You can have emotions. Look, you can hear the sound of the man's voice. He is clearly not having a joy reliving these moments, but he's trying to let you all know this is real, man. This is a real thing we all deal with on a daily basis, whether it be anxiety, PTSD like Teddy deals with, depression. All these are big catchwords that y'all hear that you seem to think you know what it is. You don't realize it manifests in different ways for everybody and stuff like that. And it's the craziest thing about the whole thing is it's just like we're not getting enough help out there. It's great that we have all these, different places that say they want to help you, but are you really helping us? Especially our military. These guys that go over there and defend our rights every day. I don't think you realize that some of these people do on a daily basis to help you, and stuff like that. And a lot of these different organizations you all want to cancel, but you don't realize what they do all day. And, law enforcement too. It's like, you all want to hate on them, but in a split second, they have to make a decision of what they're going to do next. And, then you get criticized regardless of what they picked. Okay, well, this is the right answer. That was the right answer. I don't like this. I don't like that. Well, that's great. You don't like it, but you weren't in that situation, and when that sense of, like people say, when you get punched in the face, a fight starts, that's really when it begins. Like, things happen for a reason. Like, when that truck got exploded, Teddy was a little rocked there. And he's trying to figure out what's going on at this point. Most of y'all would have just been crying in a corner, curled up in a ball, going, "Oh God, help me!" He didn't have a chance. He was knocked unconscious, like he said, and he had to come to and regain his senses because it's real, it's happening. This isn't a simulation. This is a real deal happening right now, and that's the problem for a lot of people is that they just take all these stereotypes and they want to give it a label, or they want to do, oh well, you go get medication, it'll help. No, I tried some of those anxiety medicines. I'm good. No, I'll take a hard pass on that because like some of them make you feel like you're about to have a heart attack. I'm standing there still and my heart is racing 1,000 miles an hour. That's not normal, guys. That's crazy because and there's so many other things out there you can use nowadays to do it, and like I had a guest I talked to, I was telling Teddy about before the show that he uses karate, and that's his way of dealing with anxiety. And there's other people that do other things that all different kind of things help, but it's just, medicine isn't always the answer for everything. Go get your kid doped up on medication doesn't mean that's the answer for them. Maybe it'll help for some of you, but that's not what he needed. He needed somebody to listen to him.
Yeah. No, that's the big one. I think is there are lots of good places out there and good people that can help, and a lot of them are just their phones aren't ringing off the hook because folks just don't make that call. And
yeah,
I challenge everyone to make a call and check on someone that you haven't talked to in a while, because you need that call. You need to make that call just as much as they need to answer that call. And I will always try and be the difference for someone else, just as I've had great folks surround me and be the difference for me. And one thing that I've learned in the past 6 months dealing with the TBI is I never understood how that impacts so many other things in your physical makeup. So like my speech, my vestibular, my ears, my eyes, my balance, all those things. And I'll give you an example. Walking down the street, I have, 3 boys, and I always felt like they were zigzagging in front of me, or if they're walking beside me, they're zigzagging and bumping into me and everything else. But until I went to the Marcus Institute for Brain Health in Aurora, Colorado, at the University of Colorado, that was the first time that I ever realized that my brain injury impacted how I walk. And my if I have to go for a long walk, I'll be super tired, not from the physical aspect, but just drained, because when you have a brain injury, your innate ability to just walk upright and walk straight is not there anymore. So now your brain is overloaded trying to just keep you walking straight, and not bumping into everything. Or your eyes, as they move around from spot to spot trying to focus, that is not, autonomous any longer either. So people don't realize all these things impact your well-being, and it impacts your mental health, because now you're frustrated because, something is taxing your cognitive ability that used to be just normal, or autonomous, going from room to room, not remembering why you went there. That's all draining, So anyone that's out there that is listening that has had a concussion, whether you're, playing youth football, or whether you're wrestling in high school, or whether you were in a car accident, anything like that, understand that the TBI portions are stacked. Anytime you have a blow to the head, it's stacked on top of each other, and it affects the neuroplasticity, I believe is the word.
Yeah, that's how it said.
Yeah, of the brain, that helps you function with all of these physical, emotional, cognitive abilities to just process daily functions. So don't just assume, when you stand up and you get dizzy, or you can't see something, or you bump into something when you miss you walking through the hallway and you turn too fast and you hit the wall. Don't just think, oh, I'm getting old, or oops, whatever. a lot of that is brain health. And I would not have been aware of that, because for me, I'd just get pissed off and tell my boys, hey, walk straight, watch where you're going. Well, no, but the whole time it was me doing the zigzag, because my body is trying to, focus on them. My brain is trying to focus on keeping me upright and walking straight. And it's exhausting. So if you have had a head blow or an injury to your head, don't wait to get checked out. Do not take it for granted, because the earlier detection can help. And there's a lot of things that the brain is a muscle also, and you can retrain your brain. You can rebuild your brain. You can retrain your eyes, are muscles. The vestibular system in your ear that keeps you balanced and things like that. It's all stuff that can be rebuilt. So don't take a blow to the head for granted, because it will affect you later in life. And that's just, sorry for the tangent. That's just one of those things that I was instrumental in me processing a lot of things, because I would get upset, and working in the garage, I stand up and don't have a depth perception and hit my head, and head split open and everything else. And it's like, damn it, for almost a decade, my goal was, anytime I'm working, I have a hat on, so at least when I hit my head, I don't split my dome open, so there's ways that there's help out there. There's people that are experts that need to be involved in folks' lives, that can legitimately impact positively and change the quality of life moving forward. And that's the goal, is we all want a high quality of life. And if we can help each other, even point in the right direction, that's the goal for all of us. When I walk into a room and I see 100 people, I see 100 different struggles going on. It's not a competition. It's legitimately an appreciation for everyone has something weighing on them when they lay their head on that pillow at night. And it's not a who has it worse. It's that we all have something going on, and we deserve to live the best possible life out there. And how do we do that? We do that by communication. We do that by supporting each other. We do that by pointing each other in the right direction because of what we have learned or what we have endured. And I think my mission from here on out is, I don't want someone to have to deal with what I've dealt with for 15 years. If I can cut that in half, that's great. If I can cut that by a third, that's even better. But there are different types of struggles that we have. And I've often said, I found comfort in chaos, right? In the Marine Corps, if it was the more chaotic, the more I was at home and the more I operated at a high level. I was that guy that I could juggle it all, and I was very good at it. Then you leave the Marine Corps, you leave the military, you leave a high stress job, whatever it is, law enforcement, firefighting, and then what, right? Anxiety, chaos can be and is addicting. And a lot of people don't realize that. When you find comfort in chaos, anxiety, chaos is an addiction. And the lack of anxiety and the lack of chaos is uncomfortable. So I say that for this point, when you are uncomfortable, it's probably because you're starting to make better choices and improvements in your life. Having grinded for a decade, just getting through the days, just trying to figure out, is today going to be a good day or a not so good day? And when you've grinded for so long, and now you start to find some balance and some peace, and you have a little bit more, trusting of faith, if you will, then you're on the right track, because life doesn't have to be chaotic. Life doesn't have to be full of anxiety, where all you're doing is you're opening up you're opening up every door in your life, waiting for something to jump at you. No, sometimes you just open up a door and you walk in, and there's something beautiful on the other side, whether it's a, sunset or a, backyard or a friend, whatever. So understand that you don't have to live and accept is the big word of how you're living if it's not beneficial to you. And that has been my learning curve over the last 2 years is I don't accept any longer to live on the edge nonstop, and it's challenging. It's hard. It's it can be super frustrating, but you don't have to accept what you don't want and how you don't want to live any longer. There is help out there. There's good lives for all of us. So I just throw that out there.
Yeah, I agree. No, I agree. There's definitely things out there. You shouldn't have to live in constant, anxiety. Like mine, it was really bad. Like I just had these like panic attacks out of nowhere or anxiety attacks. And the best way to describe it to people is if you ever seen the movie Get Out, the end of the movie, the guy is sitting in the chair and he's stuck to the chair, but there's a and the room completely is black around him. Okay. But there's a light above him and he's looking upward and he can see reality. But this is where he's at. And it's what it feels like. It feels like you're just stuck there and like everybody around you wants to help you. But at that point, it's like, you can't help me at that point. I've got to get through this thing, and it feels like you're just trapped and it's like everything just starts going so quick and it felt horrible. It's a horrible feeling, and I've had it happen. I'm at work a couple times and people have asked me, hey, are you okay? I'm good. I'll tell you I'm okay, but I'm not going to tell you what I'm dealing with right at that moment because it's like, I don't want you to think I'm just crazy because, you don't understand what I'm dealing with at this moment. And it's just, and a lot of times when thoughts go in my head, they start bouncing around. They're going like a Super Bowl back and forth. And my brain will start inventing new things that aren't there and stuff like that. So like I have to take a minute to think. I'm like, okay, hold on. And and I have this anxiety journal I use that it helps refocus your mind. It like walks you through these steps. And then when you get to the end of it, you feel a lot better because you're really thinking about exactly what is going on. And it helps refocus your mind and things like that too. And then I have depression as well. So, and I've been told that one feeds into the other and it's like an endless kind of infinite loop. And it's not fun. It's really not. And I wish I would have got help sooner because I wouldn't have gone through a lot of things I did. I went to deal with a lot of drinking at one point. I was drinking a heavy amount and I was stressed out all the time because, I didn't know what I was dealing with. And then, now that I know I have ADHD as well, a lot of stuff starts making sense. All these different things I'm starting to learn as I start doing more studies into these things. It's interesting to see because I can pick out a lot of things that, okay, well, that makes perfect sense. Now that makes a lot of sense why I do certain things and certain personality traits I have that, I start to notice. And if I didn't get help, I don't honestly, like I said, I don't think I'd be where I'm at now, or I wouldn't even be on this journey, honestly, because when I did this is when I really wanted to start no more. And like I said, I floated this idea of this whole podcast, and that's how we're sitting here now. Is that it was just, hey, where's the space to talk about this stuff? And that's the great thing about Teddy and I. We can talk about this now, and that's the space we're trying to create here. I'm only one person. Teddy's one person. And it's like that's all it takes is one person to cause change at this point. You got to try and do it. If not, but like I said, with this, I was shocked, honestly, Teddy. I had like 55 responses in 2 days to just people that wanted to be a part of this whole thing. They're like, oh yeah, awesome. I want to be a part of this. I'm like, okay, well, here's the steps, and I like Teddy filled out a guest sheet like everyone else does. And they give all this information and things like that. And I was telling Teddy in our before we even get started that I do have a Columbine survivor, someone who's actually in the library while this whole event was going on, is going to be on this week. I'm going to do a pre-record I think it's next week, actually. It's on the 18th. She's going to come and talk to me. But it's crazy. Like, you don't know what people are thinking in that moment. And it's going to be a very interesting kind of aspect to see what she's thinking at that time, too, because, man, it's crazy. It really is just the things that you find out about and how people deal with different things. And, I talked to a woman, Nicola, the other day. She said that her anxiety infested as like she stared at the door and she thought that if she moved this jacket in the back of the door, that her kid would die instantly. And it's crazy. People don't realize it's those little things, and it sounds stupid to everybody else. To me, it was just like, wow. And I know she said there was another woman, something to do with like a silver bracelet. She couldn't take it off because the same thing. She thought her kid would die or something like that. And people don't realize that's the thing with anxiety, man. It shows up in different ways, and depression, all this other stuff is different for people. And like Teddy said, call and check in on someone because you don't know if they need to hear that you care. Because it could be that one thing that makes people's lives change differently. Like, okay, well, somebody does care, because a lot of people I've talked to that were thinking about committing suicide feel like they're not being heard. They feel like they're alone. Nobody cares. They're a waste of space, or they're, you know, they're being too much of baggage for people and things like that for other people. And they just need to hear that you care, kind of thing. And it matters. It really does. Like, all you could do is say one nice thing to them, and that could make somebody's day. And that's the thing about this whole thing, is that, just one kind act could save somebody's life. You don't realize that. Like, when you're just nice to somebody for 2 minutes, maybe that's what they needed to see, or they need to be felt like they're being heard or seen, or they exist in the world. Because a lot of them will feel like they don't exist at all. And you just being nice and saying hello to them, that's cool. Maybe that's what they need to hear. Okay, well, somebody sees me. At least somebody sees me. So let's see if we can cause a chain reaction of these things, and help each other, because, we got to come together for this thing, because this is ridiculous. We're losing 22 veterans a day. That's insane, guys. Like, we got to do something now about this problem and reduce the number, because I did the studies on mental health, and people in the age of 40 range are the second highest. Everything above that, 73 and above. It's insane. And I'm in that group. And that's the other thing that sparked this whole idea. Was like, man, damn, that's crazy. People in my age range are the highest amount. You hear about these kids that commit suicide and everything else and all this other stuff, but it's like, look at the numbers. It's not the kids, it's the adults that are doing it. And a lot of times people say they're okay, but are they really okay? Like, look at Robin Williams, the happiest guy you could ever thought he was, but that he was so much shit on the vaccine that nobody even knew. It was crazy. Chris Farley, stuff like that. All these guys that present like they're all excited and all happy and everything else, but we don't really know what people are thinking in that moment. And that's the great thing with this podcast, is that I'm trying to get people's information out there. Like, this is what people are thinking in that moment. Like Teddy could tell you what he was thinking in that moment. And, then his son came around the corner and saved his life, and he doesn't even realize it. And it takes just one person, one action, one thing to save somebody's life. You guys don't even know. And that's the craziest thing. And that's the great thing about this whole thing, is I'm just trying to get the message out there and let people tell their stories and let people know how these things exist and how they interact with them, because everybody's different, man. But we all have problems. Like Teddy said, you don't know what people have, but we all deal with something at some point or something. You have death in the family. Some people take death different ways than other people do, and it's okay, guys. It's all right. Get some help, though. That's my thing, is get some help. Like, talk to somebody. At least talk to somebody. At least give somebody a chance to hide and help you, because there is help out there. There is plenty of different options out there. You can go anywhere you can find something. Reach out to people. There's so many different resources now. You don't even have to leave your house nowadays, because that's how I do my therapy sessions. I go over the phone, and I sit there and I do video calls, or I do phone. Whatever you're feeling that day. And that's a great thing, because I don't like going to certain places. I just don't. That's just me. I just don't like people in general sometimes, because I deal with a lot of people when I deal in retail. I just don't like people. I know it sounds funny when I say that to people. People laugh. I'm like, listen, when you deal with people enough times in customer service, trust me, your thoughts of how you look at people are a lot different very quickly. Okay. Because, like that part, and that's another thing. Be nice to the person at McDonald's taking your order. Okay. Like, those people deal with enough crap every day. They don't need to hear you yell at them because somebody messed up your. I get that it got messed up, but cut them a break. Like, you don't realize how much crap they deal with on a daily basis with just people in general coming in there and just getting mad at you over the stupidest things possible. And it's crazy.
Being nice is actually free. People don't realize that, and you never know when you start right off the bat to project your issues and just, the fact that you had to wait in line at Starbucks or whatever your worldly crisis is at that point. When you project your angst on someone else, you don't know how that's going to impact them. So why do that? Why would you go out of your way to intentionally disrupt someone else's life just because you had to wait, wherever? And that to me, that's one of the fundamental issues that we have in society now is impatience, where everyone is so impatient that, I got to get from point A to point B. So I'm going to drive like a bat out of hell, and I'm to the point now where I'm like, go right ahead, because again, trying to be faith-based and trusting faith in the fact that, well, maybe the Lord wanted me to slow down because there's going to be something really bad at that intersection, and I don't know if that's the right rationale, but I'm not going to allow
I
someone
honestly, I
else.
think it is. I really think it is, because it's funny you say the Lord. I recently accepted Jesus like last year, and it's been a whirlwind of a change, guys.
Sure.
Like, I'm not telling you religion's for everybody, but for me, it was great. Like, I think he was looking out for me because I was in an accident. I spun across 4 lanes of traffic, didn't hit anybody, luckily. And the only way I could explain it to somebody, when I came out of the car, the gentleman that pulled over freaking out, going, oh my God, you're okay. He's like, how did you make it through that? I'm like, God took the wheel, man. I'll be honest with you. God was looking out for me at that time, because luckily hit nobody. Nobody was injured. The car was a little messed up, but that's okay. The car can be replaced. You can get a car anywhere you want to go. That's easy. Like, but me, myself, I was a little shooken up. My wife, she was asleep in the passenger seat. It's funny because we were telling this story, and she's like, all I heard was, oh shit. And then the car just spun completely out of control, flew across 4 lanes of traffic in a busy intersection here in the DFW area. And everybody knows right there where that's at. It's just, you're going straight across all those lanes. And luckily, I ended up on the shoulder where the wheels had caught it and stopped it. But I'm telling you, Jesus was right there with me, man, because there's no way I would have made it through that unscathed. And luckily, nobody else got injured in the process tube, and it was crazy. But it's funny at the same time, because the way she tells it, because she's like, I was just sleeping there, and all I heard is, oh shit. And then she's just laughing at me. I'm like, it wasn't funny because I was the one driving the goddamn car. Okay, I'm scared, man. I was scared. And I was a little shook up after getting in the car. I was paranoid afterwards for a couple days, because I was like, oh man, how close are these people getting to me? Oh man. So I usually let her drive, but yes, she likes to get places in a hurry. So
yeah. And that's, it's just one of those things that you mentioned it, how being nice to one person, maybe that person is going to be nice to somebody, and the ripple effect is real, and people don't realize it works negatively and positively. So if you're having a shit day and you're just all over the place and you're irrational and you're just irritable and at everyone, you're going to get them so amped up that they're going to do the same thing until it runs out. So if you can change that and create a positive ripple, now, your surroundings and your circle are that much more pleasant to be in, to be around, and things like that. So understanding some of the issues of anxiety and how to get help. And for me, it's the PTS and the TBI and the moral injury that I have recently figured out that I deal with every single day. All those things have legitimately caused a ripple effect through my family, and my parents, they have recognized it. My boys recognize it. So it's just one of those things that when you understand that everything that you do or don't do impacts those that you care about the most, you should always want to get help to be the best version of you. Peter, are you familiar with the two wolves story?
I believe I am, but you might want to retouch on that one for me.
So two wolves, an old Cherokee was telling his grandson that we live with two wolves in our being, right? In our soul, in our body, what have you. And one is evil and one is good. So the evil has anger and like jealousy, all these things, all the negative aspects, and the good one has joy, peace, love, all those things. So it's a constant battle, and finally, the grandson says, "Well, father or grandfather, because they're at a constant battle, so which wolf wins?" And the grandfather says, "The one that you choose to feed."
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that alone is a mindset change where if you change one negative connotation, even one negative word, to a positive word or even a neutral word, your mindset changes. And that's what I have learned the past year is if I can, promote positive affirmations, positive self-talk, and lessen the negative self-talk, everything around me changes.
Mm-hmm.
Even my outlook. It's like, well, I don't know how to fix that. Okay. Or maybe that's negative, of course. Well, how about I haven't figured out how to fix that yet? It's not super positive, but it's not negative because it's just telling you, opening the door that, you know what, I'm working to fix this because I know it's a problem. And that's why we're here. That's why we, you know, anything dealing with PTSD, TBI, depression, anxiety, all those things, it's not a medical model. You don't get a shot, you don't get a pill, and then you're all better. It
Yeah,
is a
exactly.
it is a legitimate rehabilitation model, rehab. So when you deal with mental health issues at any level, you are going to be in rehab for the rest of your life. And that's a great thing to understand. If you can accept that you know what, every single day that I wake up, I'm going to work my ass off to make it the best day possible because I know I am in rehab. I am in rehab because I choose not to be that victim. I choose not to, you know, succumb to the pressures that society has placed on me and just bearing me down because they want to isolate and label and put me in a box. No, I am going to fight for my life and for the quality of my family every single day, just like I'm in rehab. You don't need a coin. You need a positive mindset and a positive life moving forward for your family and the ones you hold near and dear. So,
Yeah, and the will to change too. Yeah,
yeah,
you have to accept that you want to have that help too. That's the one thing too. A lot of addicts deal with is that uh, if they don't accept it and say that they want help, they're not going to get help, and there's nothing you can do for them unless they want the help, and stuff like that too. So those are all really great points too.
yeah. So, um,
So, Teddy,
and
before we wrap up, did you want to go ahead and tell them about your organization? I know you did have one listed inside your guest info thing, and I want to make sure we get all the information out there. Do you want to explain to them a little more about what that is?
yeah, I sure will. So in 2013, uh, I started a nonprofit for just Marines, and Marines are a little fanatical about just being Marines, and we just wanted to take care of families um, and Marines, and then we expanded that to all veterans a few years later, and then a couple years ago we rebranded to First Coast Heroes Outreach, and we took on veterans and first responders because I felt like first responders deal with a lot of things that veterans and military guys do. So, um, what we try to do, we started out focusing on mental health, and now what we try to do is be proactive in the education, resources, and referral allocation for um, the proactive side of mental health issues. So if we can educate, if we can provide resources for folks that may be struggling with something, we get ahead of the crisis, and that's the goal. We don't want to. There's plenty of places out there that are reactive to crisis when shit hits the fan. Hey, here
Hmm.
we are, right? That's not our niche. Our niche is we want to educate, we want to inform, we want to provide resources for folks that can get out and say, you know what, I'm just kind of not okay. I just want to talk to somebody, or I just want to be a part of something. I want to kind of get some questions answered for myself. And so that's what we're doing now. Our website is heroesoutreach.org. Our social media handles are Heroes Outreach on Instagram and Facebook. You can email me at tcolgate@heroesoutreach.org, and I will gladly do whatever I can. On our website, there's a contact link there as well that you can send us a message and just either an introduction or something that you're needing, wanting, looking for, and we will do everything in our power um, to provide that and get that for you. The one great thing about it is we're short staffed, although we've been around for over a decade. We do what we can, and we are organically grown where we don't try to outlive and outreach our capabilities. Nobody on our staff takes a salary. Nobody on our staff, is living in high-rise Manhattan mansions or nothing like that. I mean, I often say that when we host events and we'll do some educational expos every now and again, that I think I actually lose some money. But when I was a COO for a larger nonprofit in Jacksonville, Florida, and it became about money and not people. And I couldn't be a part of that because I would much rather lose $5 and help one person than make 5,000 and not help a soul. So that's where we are. We cover our operating costs with any donations, and there's donation links on there. But for us, it's just about getting the word out and trying to help people before they are in so dire need that it's a longer recovery. And if we can cut down on their journey, using me as even a poor example or a good example, whichever way you look at it, that's our goal. I don't want someone to live 15 years and wake up and say, damn, I wish, I should have.
Or the what if, a lot of people say what if a lot of times,
Yeah.
and then run through all the scenarios and how to what if. Well, that's really awesome though. Do you guys have any anybody can donate their help, like anything like that? Do you guys take people coming in and helping out and things like that too? Do you guys teach them stuff like that?
Yeah. So we have part of that contact link, I think is, I think it's on there where if you want to, donate time, if you have another organization, and we're huge at trying to partner with like-minded folks that, maybe cross boundaries some things, or if we can support another, similar nonprofit to be able to, feed off of each other. So we're all about that as well. So we do have a couple providers that stay with us just in case of crisis. But what we try to do is really just be proactive and get out in front of everything at this point.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, you're trying to stop it before it becomes a problem and things like that, and it's not going away. The problem is getting worse. Like you said, 22 veterans a day is just an insane number, guys. We need to cut it down. Like, we need to stop this thing before it becomes even worse than it could possibly be. Well, Teddy, I wanted to thank you for your time today. Like I said, it was great talking to you. I would definitely be in touch with you for sure. I may have somebody in mind of an organization. I'll reach out to him and see what he thinks about sending him your way. Definitely. And I will definitely be following you on Instagram and promoting anything I can and get the message out there. Cause there are some people I know that are first responders and stuff like that. I'm going to pass it on to them. Tell them, listen, hey, anybody may need to talk to somebody, here you go. Reach out to these guys right here. Well, great. And I'll let them know, like I said, I'll tell them definitely to reach out and tell them all about you guys and stuff like that. But, as always, guys, like I always say, it costs nothing to be kind to somebody, and like me and Teddy have been talking about, one kind act could save somebody's life, And once again, Teddy, it was great having you again today. I really appreciate it. I'd love for you to come back another time. We'll definitely have to figure that out for sure. You come back and listen to how the organization is doing and everything like that. Sound good?
That sounds amazing. I appreciate the opportunity, Pete. And the last thing that I'll tell to all your followers and viewers is make that call, answer that call, and be the difference in your life and someone else's.
Yeah, that's very powerful message there, guys. Like I said, and as always, guys, you can always find me at Pete versus Anxiety Pod and TikTok, Pete versus Anxiety on YouTube, Pete _versus_ you anxiety on Instagram. And as always, guys, like I always say, it costs zero to be kind to somebody. One kind act could save somebody's life. And this is another great episode of Pete versus Anxiety. I'll talk to you guys all next time, same time next week, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the Oracle Talk Radio Network. Until then, you guys have a great day. Thank you so much.